Welcome to This Team is Killing Us, a podcast about what the Carolina Panthers do to good people. That is Lauren Brownlow. I'm Demetri Ravanos. And Lauren, what is killing me today is that no matter what happens on this podcast, nobody is going to listen. It is basketball week here in the Triangle.
That's just going to be the case. I mean, to be honest, it's mostly the case anyway. Like
sure.
Even when no one's in it anymore.
Yeah.
But still, like now, even more so. That's gonna, and with State making it obviously like no one's.
Yeah, it's I tweeted this last night. I've lived here since 2005, and in that time, State has missed the tournament more than they've made it.
Yeah, sure.
They have never been better than an 8 seed. They hired Mark Gottfried on purpose. Like, I never thought I would see this day.
I mean, to be honest, like he did take them to their first tournament in a long time, so like it's not like it didn't work out for a time.
Yeah, I guess that's true, right? Lowe never took them to the tournament.
Oh no.
Right? Yeah.
No.
And I do have to point out, Lauren, I'm rocking my University of Alabama basketball school shirt as we are in our first Final Four. That is sort of a
would not have known
take.
that was Alabama.
Yeah. No,
I guess that's part of the point. Maybe.
Right. If we were down in Alabama, everyone would be like, "Oh, how clever."
They'd be like, "Why does a woman have a basketball?"
Yeah. Well, no, actually, our women's team has been to a Final Four before.
Well, did anyone in Alabama notice or care?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. But again, it was a very new thing at the time.
Yeah, they were like, "What?"
Yeah, it wasn't like
you put the ball in the. You don't kick it through. What is this?
Yeah, it wasn't so much like the people in South Carolina when you talk about
when
basketball.
lacrosse comes here,
right?
We're like, what?
Right. Down in South Carolina, because I've done radio down there before. If you talk about basketball and you're not talking about the women, they are offended. Like they don't understand why you would even give the men's team the time of day until this year when they finally made the tournament again, right?
Yeah, and then just flamed out spectacular.
But back then, the women's tournament was like, how fun for you. How fun for all of us.
Right. Hey, like for South Carolina to have a sport that they win stuff in is not insignificant.
No,
like
for sure.
I totally get it. And I love like how genuinely like appreciative and loving they are of that. I think it's great.
It is I hate to say Dean Smith level because she has not been there that long, but the reverence that town has for Dawn is incredible.
I get it. I like Dawn.
Yeah. Speaking of South Carolina, Jadeveon Clowney signed a 2-year deal with the Carolina Panthers worth about $20 million. I mean, the defensive end problem is not solved yet, but here's a piece, right?
Right. For sure. I mean, like, it's something they need pass rush, obviously, especially with Burns. You know, being gone. And I guess like, look, I know like the local angle could be looked at multiple ways, but it is also something that the Panthers have generally not done, which has also like given a ready-made excuse for fans of teams like South Carolina, like Clemson, who genuinely like, not to stereotype fan bases, but let's be real. Like if you put a player from one of those teams that they love on the Panthers roster, are more likely they said this to go to a game, like to go and to, you know, be more like vocal, ardent fans if you put guys like that on the roster. And obviously this team has an attendance problem. So, I mean, I get it to a degree, and they've never really tried it before. So why not when you have a need, I guess?
As of today, you know, if no other roster moves are made, obviously we have the draft still to go through. The pass rush is Clowney on one side and DJ Wadham on the other. Like South Carolina fans should be buying their season tickets right now.
I do wonder if Saturdays are just so draining for them that they're like, I can't now I have to watch another shitty football team again. I just did that.
I had a friend that was coming into town, not town Raleigh, but into Columbia to interview for a job there, and the potential employer gave him 2 tickets to a South Carolina Vanderbilt football game.
That feels like microaggression.
I said, I don't think they want you as much as you think they do.
That feels like a gesture of F you more so than welcome. Like, really? You pick Vandy too? Like, come on.
Did you see Jadeveon Clowney's quote about realizing he needed to be more mature before he became a Panther?
Oh, boy.
This was a quote from before he signed with Seattle, I believe. He said that he told his agent, don't even reach out to the Carolina Panthers. I need to be more mature before I could go back home.
And how old was he when he said that?
That he had to be 27, 28.
I mean, I'm not going to be super unfair to him. Like there are times when I'm like, I need to mature, and I'm 40.
I think it is. I think it's a pretty like self-aware statement to know, like, I cannot be around the people that know me and take slings from the people that know me.
Doing
that.
Yeah, and I'm sure like too, maybe being around like his, just certain, I'm not saying bad influences, but we all have friends that are probably maybe we shouldn't hang out with, and now you're going to be around them all the time, and it's like, I don't know if that's the best thing for me.
Or I mean, look, this is something that I was having a conversation with a mutual friend of ours last week.
Or people start asking you for money a lot.
So it's not only people start asking you for money. He had mentioned that he had been a little bit sexually irresponsible, and it made it hard to go to a certain city. I mean,
we think that's why like Dave Canales liked it. Like they have that in common in their past that they're trying to get past that. I'm not even like being funny.
I'm not saying like I know that's the case, but I'm saying like there are all kinds of reasons you could need to be more mature before you go to a place where it's easy for people to get to you. Right?
For sure.
I want to circle back on what you said, the local angle. I mean, I said this early in free agency. I hate loading up on locals. Like it's transparent. It's so transparent. And also in this case, no. I felt this way when I was a Buccaneers fan, and the Buccaneers would routinely select Florida State or Miami players, even when
you weren't from there either.
Right.
So it's like, I get it. But no, there are times when I think it's almost been like frustrating for fans of some, even like State and Carolina fans have had that when they've had like great players that the Panthers have had a chance to draft. And it's like, really? Like they did have Julius Peppers, and I think that mattered a lot.
That's one where it's like, okay, not only was he beloved by Carolina fans, he was also beyond excellent.
He was the no-brainer at that spot anyway.
Yeah.
I would rather them go that way for sure than going, let's err on the side of, you know what I mean? Like, so I get it from that perspective. I don't want them to just say, well, we want this guy because he's local, if there's a potentially even like marginally better guy. Right. But I don't know that was necessarily the case here. So
I think Wanham, Wanham's going to be asked to do more than Clowney is.
Yeah.
And Wanham I would be fine with if they had gotten Chase Young. I think that Wanham's ceiling is a little low.
But let's remember too, like this, even though they have a new coach and there's new energy and all that stuff, I don't know that considering a lot of factors surrounding this team right now, that this is exactly the most desirable free agent destination when players have choices.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you saw that I think there's a reason Robert Hunt got the kind of money he did as a guard, right?
Right. And considering those constraints, like I've been cautiously pleased with the way they've handled things.
Yeah, 100%. So I don't think this alleviates the possibility that they are going some sort of edge rusher with one of their first three picks.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's still a need. Wide receiver obviously still a need, even though they got one in the offseason, but that's not the answer. So
no, for sure. Chop Robinson from Penn State is a guy that you see starting to fall. Maybe he'd be there at 33. There's a kid I
forgot they use wide receivers on half the Big Ten teams. So I think they forget too. And then they get in the postseason. They're like, oh, we have wide receivers in passing games.
Well, Chop is an edge rusher.
I'm joking.
There's also the edge.
I thought you were talking wide receivers.
No. There's also the edge rusher from Missouri, whose name I keep forgetting. Those are kind of the guys that you think about in that 33, 39 range. It'll be interesting.
Although they have, if they have a tackle they like in that range.
Sure.
I think those.
That's what I mean. You got to look at the first three picks, because who knows how quickly those receivers are going to be coming off the board, and maybe you have to pounce.
I think with this team, though, you have to ask the question, is a pass rusher a bigger priority than a pass catcher or a pass blocker? And I say no, because some of the moves they've made have left me not scratching my head, but I've been a little bit like, okay, so are they in rebuild, or are they in let's try to win now, or is it some of both?
Yeah.
Which I think mostly it's probably some of both. I don't think any of these moves are hamstringing them.
You have to think that they are looking like Dan Morgan and Dave Canales are probably both looking at the way the odds have shifted towards Atlanta just by adding Kirk Cousins, and think that means the division is open for somebody.
And it still is, I think, an open division. And I think, look, you could argue they need to be in complete rebuild mode, but this isn't a video game. Like, you do still have to have people giving a shit about your football team, and they have to show some improvement this year. They have to give fans somewhat of a reason to keep coming back. And, even some of the vet deals, like, they're pretty short term for the most part. There's not a lot invested in if they work out or not. So I don't hate the way they're going, but I also can see why maybe it's throwing some people like, well, which way are they actually going? I actually think it's probably a little bit of a mix of both, but they do, I think, still, for that reason, I think they need to prioritize the offense first, because it has more, it's more in need of help, and a lot of it.
Yeah, let's put a pin in the pass catcher, pass blocker conversation for just a moment. I do want to ask you all to please take the time to like and subscribe to this show wherever it is you get it. If you are hearing it on podcast and you're already subscribed, awesome. Go leave a review and a rating. That helps more people find it. If this just popped up on your feed on YouTube, subscribe to the OG Triangle Media YouTube channel as we go through the aforementioned basketball season. Obviously, a ton of content there, and Lauren and I pop up talking Panthers pretty regularly. So please take time to like, subscribe, and review this show. Pro Football Network, Lauren, has moved the Panthers' top need from offensive line to wide receiver.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I find that significant only because there was a lot of activity done in the middle of the line, and then
I was
some
like,
depth
I'm sorry.
added. I don't
Are you
know
unfamiliar with their biggest need? Because that on the O-line has not changed.
No, I agree. They still need to find a tackle. And then with the wide receiver, I mean, I think that we are really going to see what the new attitude is, because if he wanted to, it might be the easiest move for Dan Morgan if he doesn't find the pass catcher he wants in the draft. Like, DJ Chark's not re-signed yet. Laviska Shenault's not re-signed yet. You could convince yourself that there is some development coming for Jonathan Mingo. Like, I would believe the Panthers go cheap on receiver before I do line.
Certainly, I think that they would go after guys in the draft, because it is a little deeper at that. Then I'm with you. I mean, I just think they have to prioritize the tackle spot, even just to get a functional. No offense, Icky, you were functional at one point. It's just that was not the case last year. It wasn't.
Well,
you
need to find somebody who, and this is, so it's interesting. Joe Person from The Athletic reported that the Panthers are more likely to trade down than they are to move into round one. And look, that's fine. I mean, if you want to accumulate picks and build up your depth that way.
I don't like that if they do it before the draft. I would almost rather see them do it when they see how things start to shake out. I don't want them to do, what if there was a great tackle that was just sitting there that you could have drafted?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is I think the guys that would be capable, at least the guys in this draft that would be capable of supplanting Icky on the left side and letting Icky move to the right.
There'll still be some there, I think, at that.
Do you think so?
Maybe.
I think you've got to get aggressive in round one.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't see them trading up. I will agree with that. I don't necessarily see that, but I also think they have to be aggressive. I would just rather see them wait, because that's when teams get panicky too, and you can get them to make worse decisions, is when it's the last minute. It's like anything else, right? It's just like when it's the last minute and you literally have to make a decision, and you're like, oh, but what if I don't get the, you'll believe so much more BS from somebody oh, we really like this guy, but we'll trade you X and Y and we won't, whatever. They're a lot more likely to make mistakes than if you trade before the draft. So if I find out they traded before the draft, I'll probably be a little annoyed. I would rather let's just let it play out, y'all. Let's see where we're at. Maybe there's a guy we like. Maybe somebody's going to offer you a juicy package.
Right.
A juicy. Sorry. Wow. Sorry.
How long has it been, Lauren? to your point, I think the guys that the Panthers have a good shot to get Amarius Mims and Kingsley Suamataia, Georgia and BYU respectively. I don't think you can trade back from 33 and get one of those guys.
You're just showing off to pronounce that.
I am.
I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. But you just never know. I mean, because sometimes too, when somebody drafts a quarter, there just starts to be a run on quarterbacks. People so many teams panic when the actual draft hits, but the more time you give them to think about it, the better the decision that they'll make. So make someone make a bad decision for your pick.
Lauren, you just said three things that really tie perfectly into our next topic. Quarterback, bad decision for your pick.
Wow.
And teams start to panic.
Yeah.
We gave Matt Rule and Scott Fitterer a lot of hell for their record when it comes to giving up everything they possibly could to find a quarterback.
To be fair, let's be real. As much as Matt Rule was a doofus, we know, I think now that David Tepper played a lot more. Like, I'll give David Tepper at least half of that to shoulder.
Well, Lauren Brownlow, let's at least then give Dave Tepper a little round of applause, because it turns out he did draft a starting quarterback. Matt Corral started for the Birmingham Stallions in the UFL this week.
They just did that because his name's Corral, right?
I didn't even think about that. I honestly thought like they just did that because it's an SEC guy in Birmingham, right? But Corral for the Stallions has to play a role here.
There's a collection of quarterbacks, let's be honest, most of them white.
Yeah.
That like people are just remain very fascinated with.
Oh, sure.
And they will all, like Sam Darnold is the president of that. Like that you can see him suck repeatedly over and over. And people, and not just teams, like the Nathan Peterman thing, I think baffles all outside observers, except for NFL teams themselves, right? Like all of us are like, what? Why is he still out there? He is awful. But Darnold is one of those guys that like even some of the media is like, you know what? He just needs the right situation. It's like so sexy to them. And I'm like, what? Why? Like, whereas like, you know, a black quarterback has like one bad season. They're like, you know what? He was overrated. This exposes all the flaws in his game. Gotta go. I'm like, how are we still doing the Darnold thing?
I'm gonna go back in time to John Kitna, who was not awful, but he was the universal, like, well, we don't have a starting quarterback. Someone called John Kitna.
He was solid for me in fantasy one year. I'll give him that.
I was going to say, like, he was not awful. So I don't know that he belongs in that club, but he was the classic.
Like, I would almost put Carson Palmer in a similar club. Where, like, very solid. Like, you would never put him like, he's, you know, he had a couple years where he was among the best, but he was just really, really good year in and year out.
I think the difference is if Carson Palmer were your team's answer as a franchise quarterback, you would not be disappointed.
Right. No, for sure. Okay, that's fair. Because I was going to say Carson's better than Kitna. I don't mean it like that. I just mean like, you know, I mean, even like, what's his name from the 49ers?
Brock Purdy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, that's the perfect example. Like, he is great. He's very good. Yeah. But he's not like the elite, like that, like he's not going in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
You know, and that's fine. You don't need him to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, not everyone goes in there.
Matt Corral now becomes another in the long chain of Panthers quarterbacks that are starters in lower leagues.
Oh.
Jake Delhomme.
Oh, well.
NFL Europe. Now, granted.
He was before.
Okay, this is what I was about to say. Most of them go the other way.
Right.
Who is PJ?
NFL Europe ruled, though. But yeah, PJ, God, why am I blanking? It's like a normal last name, too, and I can't.
He played at Temple and then was, I believe, the first MVP of the new XFL when it came back.
Yes. PJ Walker.
Thank you.
And by the way, like, I enjoyed him. He wasn't like, for a third string quarterback, you could do much worse than a PJ Walker.
So this is the thing, though. He was a third string quarterback.
Right.
So when they start running him out on the field, it is like, oh, okay.
Like, he had some, like, they brought him out there for some Hail Marys because of his arm strength a few times. And he would make plays. I like a player like this in the sense, like, where sometimes he might do something spectacular and sometimes he might do something that you're like, have you played football before? Right. I enjoy players like that in a sick way. But yeah, no, I mean, you're right. Yeah, they do. A lot of the Panthers quarterbacks have indeed. Was Kerry Collins a minor leaguer?
I don't think Kerry Collins was. Jimmy Clausen was. All I'm saying is another link in the chain. That's all I'm saying. Not saying it was right.
He should have been one before, but no one believed me when I was like, he's actually trash as an NFL quarterback. And people were like, no, he's going to be really good. I was like, no, he's not.
Are the Panthers using last year's roster construction? Are they the best case for the NFL needing a formal minor league system again, like they had with NFL Europe?
This is so sad. I feel like people are like, wow, the Panthers are real sucky. Like,
I mean, okay,
maybe we need to do something.
I look at the.
I mean, they were real sucky.
They were real sucky, and I look at the season that Bryce turned in, and granted, so much of it was not stuff he could control, but that is light years away from the dude we saw at Alabama. Did he need to incubate a little bit? I mean, maybe just sitting on the bench would have been better, but is there a case to be made that you can look at the season last year and say, let's formalize that relationship with the UFL. Let's take a minor league to, like, we're so obsessed with England. Let's take a minor league to England.
Well,
or to
and Germany as well. Like I mean, I think it would rule. Like, people were way more into football over there than I was expecting.
For sure.
Like, I was not expecting British people to like be wearing the gear and stuff, and like random teams, not even the teams that were playing necessarily. They're like, oh yeah, I just became a Bills fan because XYZ reason. And it's like, wow,
Oh yeah, you went for the year they
Panthers,
played
Bucks,
yeah.
And it was just like, wow, you talk to people and stuff on the way because I'm being that obnoxious American person. Well, I'm curious too. Sure. I'm like, wow, like how did you, hear you with this very British accent? Like, how did you come to the Green Bay Packers?
I mean, look, by the end of NFL Europe, I think most teams were in Germany, right? Because of the American military presence there.
People really liked NFL Europe.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. I know like former ECU coach used to be on around here locally. Steve Logan was over there and like spoke really, really highly of it. And like Kurt Warner came out of there as well. Right. Remember, like, because that was who Jake Delhomme was sitting behind.
Yeah.
Like dealing with self-esteem issues. He was even talking about it. He's talked about that since. Like, I couldn't get the start no matter what I did. It's like now it turns out it was not so bad.
It was an awesome flex of how good you were at Madden to use like the Barcelona Dragons and beat a friend.
Right. They had like a Belgian team too.
They did. Like I said, by the end, I think Amsterdam or the Netherlands, Germany, and probably Belgium or Austria were where most of the teams were.
I mean, I wonder what the concerns are besides the obvious, I guess.
Sure.
Right? Like, first of all, if you draft a guy and you want to send him over there, how are you paying him?
Right.
Are you going to pay him still what he's worth?
Right.
Because otherwise, I'm saying, screw your minor leagues.
Yeah,
I ain't going anywhere.
For sure.
Like, you're paying me or I'm not going. You're guaranteeing me a certain amount of money or that's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that would have to be worked out, but, I do want to see opportunities for dudes.
Put the games on in the morning. They want more football.
Exactly. You know what you could do? Sell it as an exclusive package to ESPN or to Amazon or to whatever, and then make it possible to pay these guys what they're worth.
Oh, okay. So if it would be on Prime, I would still get it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm just like, don't make us pay more for stuff. I'm so tired of this.
No, I'm with you. Like, I don't need any more playoff games behind paywalls. But if it's stuff that I'm only going to peek in on occasionally, fine.
And it's on anyway? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Like, people will start...
Make every game a Toy Story
game. If Twitter's even still a thing, people will be on there tweeting about it. Like, they 100% will. It's like, how do you think the Mac got popular?
Yeah.
Like, Mac football on Tuesday nights. Like, Maction. Because people started watching it and tweeting about it together.
Sell it to ESPN. Make the only available broadcast that Toy Story game broadcast.
Oh, I was going to say the Nickelodeon one too.
Or the Nickelodeon.
The Nickelodeon one would rule so hard.
Make it a kids only broadcast. It's the only way you can watch this game.
Oh my God, that would be awesome. With Nate Burleson, because he's great on those.
No, for sure.
Like, just everything
and
about those.
Noah Eagle's awesome with those too.
Yes. They're like, those are so good. And I'm not even being facetious. Like, they're so fun.
Roger Goodell, call.